Let me introduce our guest, our co-host, Wajeeh, the exceedingly gay lion from Minneapolis, Minnesota, who is hatless today. What's wrong with you, man? Oh, man, for a second there, I was going to get really worried.
No,
I
yeah,
gotta,
no.
I'm going to start bringing out my fez. And what's the significance of the black fez versus the red fez?
Black is military.
Oh, really? Oh, so that's
Yeah.
a Ascari.
Yes,
Ascari chapeau.
that's right. We're going
Okay.
military because the war is not going to be over anytime soon. But
Yeah.
I usually do it for my approval. This is my approval, and then the other one is the diplomatic one.
Well, I'm wearing my Navy baseball cap here today. I did a big segment on Fox News. And you know what's really awesome when they actually, I was like, I'm speaking as a chief. And that from that point on, the show, they refer to you as chief. And I'm like,
Chief.
yeah, yeah, that's right. That's
We
right.
like
You
that.
better be listening to me.
Yeah.
So, Jacob Garsbo, Danish intelligence officer extraordinaire, just gave us a micro tour of the wine and cheese eating party his neighborhood was having. And as he started the show off camera with a glass of wine and now has gone down to his lair, which is known as his
Exactly.
living room. I know where
No,
you are.
this
Oh,
is the gym. This
oh,
is
this
the
is the gym.
basement.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Awesome.
why I have the red screwdriver down here, because to fix spikes and stuff. That's-
Well, that's super fun. Okay, gentlemen, before we
I
start,
thought it was to point at the screen, but never mind.
well, today is Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Lorraine, for complimenting me on my CNN segment
It's
yesterday.
Saturday, and it's
It's
Saturday
Saturday.
afternoon in Denmark. That's why we're having a block party. So you are right. It
Bro,
is Saturday.
why aren't you down in Hallerup at Hallerup Beach going on a long ride? I love running on that beach, man. If I have to move to
Yeah.
Copenhagen, I'm moving to that neighborhood because it is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
nice. All the
But hey, we
diplomats live
have the
down
lake
there.
right down here. I was
That's right.
kayaking this morning, and nice
Is it
runs.
a
But
big lake?
from yeah, if you go around all the way around, it's 16 kilometers,
Ooh,
and you can
wow.
actually extend it because there's a canal, and there's another lake, so you can make it up to 21 kilometers all the way around.
Sweet, sweet.
Yeah, so it
All
is
right. Well,
decent sized
this
lake.
mor this morning I am rocking the Grommet coffee mug. All right, because we are just at one of these circumstances where I need as much amusement in my life as I can get, and every sip out of a Grommet mug is just a delight. Roger, what are you rocking your coffee with?
I need human touch today. So I'm getting the handmade local 2002 mug.
All right.
I'll
And
go get
Jacob,
my coffee because I was
I thought you were going to
sipping
I
white
thought
wine, and
you were
so I'll get.
just drinking wine. We need to do a Black Man Spy After Dark where it's like Stephanie Miller's show. I went on her show once and she used to have a thing called the happy hour. And it was a real happy hour. You had to drink alcohol and they wanted to see you would talk like after 2 or 3 drinks. And I did it from her house and I was so reserved. I had like 1, 2, or 3 sips out of a glass of wine. These guys were pounding shots and they were drunk off their ass. And I was like, I guess I'm the sober host. So we should do that one of those days. Somebody said, will that grommet mug make it into the Spy Museum for being part of the Black Man Spy experience? I don't think so. The Spy Museum has become very conservative recently because they're trying to maintain their mandate while not angering an administration that doesn't see that stuff. So, which is why they've now instituted um, term limits on being on the board of advisors. I did 10 years on the board of advisors at the Spy Museum. I've got 4 exhibits in that museum right now, including a beautiful one in the camouflage exhibit. And I'd say 80% of the stuff in the Russian war exhibit is things that I captured and brought back and gave to the Spy Museum, including a really nice captured Russian map of the Kharkiv area. So anyway, no, this mug won't make it in. Yeah.
I remember buying a little baby stocking in there for our youngest. He was born in the U.S. And we went to the Spy Museum, so we bought him a body stocking, and it was like full of these quadrats, and then it. All the yellow dots said, "I speak in code," and then
Yeah. So you have an American son.
Yeah, but I was a diplomat, so he's not
Oh, he's not
American.
Well, throw those quotes around that shit. I was a diplomat. Said the officer from the Danish intelligence agency.
I was declared there was nothing covert about this except for the nations on the Security Council we didn't exactly cooperate
I've had
with.
a diplomatic passport on several of my missions. It's like, I won't get into it. That's the one thing that was not cleared in my memoir for NSA.
Malcolm said, excuse me, hold on. I can't tell you about that.
There's a lot, when you write a book like that, you really have to self-edit. And there are a lot of stories that I was worried about. In fact, I worked with and for I guess I can say it now, a CIA officer who was killed in the line of duty. And he's on the wall of honor at the CIA, and he's a hilarious, great guy. I have pictures of us all drunk and dancing together, but we were all diplomats. And
how's that doing covert work?
I was doing diplomatic work because it said so on my passport, right? Once I walked through those doors, I was and I had everybody fooled. They were all like, that guy just moves burn bags. He doesn't do anything. It's like, that's right, I'm stupid.
But there's actually a story I often tell people these days, because when I was on the Security Council there, on loan, doing diplomatic work, we actually managed to pass the resolution for a complete weapons embargo against North Korea after their first nuclear test. Mm-hmm. And these days I remind people that it seems that both Russia, China, and the U.S. forgot what they passed back in 2007 on the Security Council. I was there. It's international law, and these three nations don't give a shit.
Yeah, of course. All that hard work. And now it's like, everybody's freaking giving you the double fingers up like Deadpool. But yeah, very interesting. It's always fun to be on a diplomatic mission. The ones I enjoyed the most, I was not on a diplomatic mission. And believe me, there were no passports involved. There was nothing on your body. It was very interesting. And in fact, one of those missions was cleared and is in my memoir, which I have all these crazy detractors. I know a lot of you guys see them. One of them actually paid me to come onto Black Man Spy, and then the next month tried to do a chargeback to get his money back, $70. And they denied it because I showed them that conversation we had that day, that this guy deliberately joined to personally attack me. But a funny thing happened. There's all these guys who go, you didn't do anything. I know everything you did in your career, but there are some missions that are like, if you guys even had the slightest clue, you'd be like buying me drinks. And one of them involved the country of Chad. And we talked about that when I had the Toyota War t-shirt, right? That was a real thing that was set up by the French Foreign Legion in Chad, and where they bought in all those Toyota pickup trucks and put created technicals well before Somalia, right? And that became the personnel carrier of this trans-Sahel wars. And now it's like standard issue. In Sudan, the regional security forces or the rapid response forces, which are trained by the United Arab Emirates, have a secret base in Kufra, Libya. And you can see from the fucking sky on satellites, there's like 100 Toyota 70 pickup trucks, brand new. They all look like they just came out of the showroom in United Arab Emirates. And they are there training Sudanese forces to go back into Sudan and to try to, destabilize the current government of Sudan, which is split into United Arab Emirates Rapid Support Forces, which was a government force, and then the Sudanese army, and split that country in two. So, but I had a lot of experience there, and this is what got me interested very early on in my career in the history of the Special Air Service and the Long Range Desert Group, because I did a PowerPoint. For the guy who was alive before Khalifa Haftar came on the scene in Libya. And one of the images I had was a photograph of the Special Air Service in the Libyan desert in Jalu, which is in Libya. And it said, the desert is a trafficable battle space. It means you can go off the roads, guys. You could go off the roads in the desert and drive around things like the SAS and the LRDG did right here in Libya, right in this section of Libya. Right back then, it was like 75 years ago. And they were all like, what? You can do these? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But now the Emiratis are there with the Russians. We talked about it yesterday. The Russians now have 6 bases in Libya, and one of them is Jalu. And the other is Kufra, Matana, Sarah, Gurdabia. Gurdabia was a big fucking base. I swear to God, that was a huge goddamn base. Air Su-24s used to fly out of it at CERT. And Gurdabia, MiG-25s, all that stuff. So anyway, but the moral of this story was, some missions I had a diplomatic passport for, and I ain't going to talk about those, and other missions, and they definitely weren't cleared for my memoir. And then others.
And just to give our viewers a sense of Libya, it's worthwhile saying that from Sirte to Kufra, it'll be almost 1,500 kilometers or something like that, or almost 1,000 miles. Yeah.
So. Interesting. Libya is a huge country. It's not as big as Algeria. Algeria is a big country. The map belies how big Algeria really is. And I didn't spend a lot of time in Algeria. I've been to Casablanca. Listen to me. I've been to Algiers or Oran. I never went down in the south, deep south. And but Algeria is tight. And Algeria, by the way, is so big, that's where France detonated its atomic bomb when they got the bomb in the 1950s. Way down there. So
is it
very
like
interesting.
2,200 kilometers, 2,500 kilometers north-south?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Something like that?
It's essentially the same size as fucking Iceland or Greenland.
Yeah.
Only without the ice. But it's got desert. It's got desert.
A whole lot of sand instead.
Somebody says, holy cow. Somebody says, who was that? Meredith Loy said she hitchhiked through Algeria in the 70s. That must have been very groovy.
Respect.
That must have been.
Respect.
Yeah, and Mr. Smith says the French also set off bombs at the Mururoa Atoll in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
So very interesting world. Hey, we have reached 1,000 followers. It's time for us to start the show. We have done our very cool banter. But oh wait, I know I was going to give you a short reward. One of these trips, I have it right here, and I'll show it to you. One of those missions that I did, well, let's just put it this way. I staged in Morocco, right? And I don't know if I ever showed this photo. A lot of these photos I didn't put up because until the memoir came out, and this is one of the photos that's in the memoir that they decided to take out because I only was allowed 16 photographs on the center 10 plate. But they did include a couple of really cool ones, like in Afghanistan and things like that. Libya, they had one in Libya where we had a very cool thing. One of the ones that they didn't want was because all of my photos have me with this cheesy grin. Like this, right? And they were like, how many fucking cheesy grin photos can we have? And I was like, I was having a grand old time, But if I can find it, I will bring up this photograph of what it's like to be not on a diplomatic passport. And trying to look as local as possible. Here we are, Thinker. And original images. Here are the images here. Oh, my God, they had a photo of me in high school. Thank God I only had one picture. But one of the ones that they took out was me acting as a terrorist with a gun to the head of a guy from Special Boat Squadron. Another one where there's a whole bunch that are out of it now. And another one where I'm just got a big shit-eating grin, doing whatever it is that I was doing. So there's all sorts of stuff, but this one in Morocco, where we staged through Morocco on my way to somewhere, and I'm looking as local can be. I'll find it for you. But let's go ahead and start today's show. I'll find it for you. I'll bring it up. It's hilarious. And it belies, all these things. Okay, first off, can we check the price of oil, Wajeeh?
Yes.
And while you do that, I am going to put my phone on a phone charger to make sure I don't just drop out of power, as has been known to happen.
Sorry, WTI is 87.06.
Is that a rise or a drop?
That's a rise, a little bit of a rise.
How much did it? Can it tell me how much it
Yesterday it risen $1, but today it's going up by 23 cents.
What the hell? Look, even at the beginning of this war, for the first few months, they would go up 15 cents, 30 cents, and then it would jump $10. Now it goes up $1, like they're cautious, and then it drops $1. Then it goes up another $1. It's strange. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. Brent crude is at 94.39. It's up 61 cents. Marban is at 103.49, up $2.42. OPEC is at 91.27, up $1.70.
Okay, good. Well, now we know where we are in this oil war. I'm sure over time here, certainly now that the market is not responding positively to Donald Trump's economic D-Day against Iran. And we talked about that yesterday. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, was dead certain that his announcing this would drop the price of oil, which I don't understand the logic of that. Since you're cutting off all Iranian oil, prices are going to go up. You're creating a shortfall. But these guys are, They live in it. I have a whole section here about Trump dealing and fantasy life because there's some crazy stuff here. And since I'm in Canada, we're going to talk a little bit about the Canada situation and how that's an indicative of how Trump does deals. Yes, Jacob.
Just even over the last 24 hours, his Minister of Economy, is that right? The right title? He came out and claimed that on Tuesday, the U.S. managed to get 10 million barrels of oil out of the Strait of Hormuz.
We talked about that, and
fantasy land.
Crazy. Fantasy baseball. It's like, oh, we're so awesome. It's like, as a matter of fact, I think I have a note on that here of what actually went out. And no matter what, they claimed, and if you read it carefully, he goes, via ships and alternate pipelines. It's like, wait a minute. The U.S. Navy cannot take credit on the Habshan Fujairah pipeline or the Abkhaic Janbu pipeline. You can't take credit.
It's something else when the government starts giving you the small given written details, like the medications give you, or like when you like it's a small thing, you can't see it. Like you can't. 10 days, you can't return this, or this will make you dead, or whatever. But like, this is a government now. Like they're saying, oh, we passed 10 million barrels of oil, but no, not all by ships.
Yeah. Fantasy baseball. All right. Well, the first thing we're going to discuss, and we touched on it a little bit yesterday, and we talked about the threats that were going back and forth between, or that were going south to north from Israel to Turkey. And when I did Mario Nawafal's show yesterday, that's all we talked about. Everyone's freaking out about the threats that Israel is making against Turkey. And for those of you who didn't remember yesterday's show, I'll recap it a little bit. Several Israeli government officials essentially threatened Turkey and was saying that they now view Turkey as the regional threat, not Iran anymore. Turkey, because, like Trump, Iran was finished. They did that. They beat the hell out of them. There's nothing there. So yesterday, the Minister of Defense, Israel Katz, warned that Turkey needs to stop supporting anyone in Syria, like the central government. And also, they need to stop encroaching towards Israel. If I'm not mistaken, the distance between the top of Syria and the Golan Heights, the closest part to Turkey, to Israel, is 400 miles. That's like me sitting here in Montreal and saying, go ahead, measure it on Google Earth. But it's like saying, I'm here in Montreal. I want you to stop fucking, coming out of your front yard in Miami and threatening me. You just go,
I'd say 500 miles.
500 miles? I haven't driven all the way to Aleppo, but I can tell you right now, and it is cleared in my memoir, I have been from the Golan Heights to as far north as wherever Cac de Chevalier is. It's north of Humps. And that was back when Humps was leveled. So that's about 2/3 of the way through Syria. And it's a long-ass drive, but Israel viewing Turkey moving to a small air base in Abu ad-Duhur air base near Aleppo as existential crisis for the state of Israel is a little over the top. But that didn't stop Ben-Gvir coming out and making statements that the United States or that Israel should view Turkey, right, as the greatest threat that they have right now, or Benjamin Netanyahu saying that the attack that they leveled on Abu ad-Duhur air base, which was a cheesy little no one cared about goddamn Abu ad-Duhur air base, or those 1950, 1960 build aircraft they're flying up there. Netanyahu says the bombing of that base was a warning to, quote, just so we made sure they understood us better.
And just to remind people,
Israelis.
The air base is is 30 miles inside Syria from the Turkish border tops. What would you say? Is
As far.
it
Do
even
either
30 miles? Is it even 30
Yeah,
miles?
yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe let's
25,
call it
30,
30 miles, maybe 30
yeah,
kilometers
30
inside that.
kilometers
I'm
is
going to find out right
probably,
now. I'm going to find out
yeah.
for you right now.
So it's like,
But
it's nothing in the
I
grand scheme
don't
of things.
remember in the
It's completely,
entire history of the Israeli-Syrian crisis, Abu ad-Duhur Air Base even coming under attack in the 67 or 73 war. It's a shithole little air training academy.
yeah.
All right. But Israel says they can't have airplanes. Yeah. Go ahead, Wajeeh.
I interviewed Deborah Shushan yesterday, and she brought to my attention a very interesting billboard in Israel that that has an image. The in the top of the image, before the image, it says they want Netanyahu to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Below all of them, it says don't let them win. Who do you think is in the image?
What? Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and the Ayatollah Khomeini?
You got one right.
I wouldn't be far off. Wait, the Ayatollah Khomeini, Osama bin Laden, and who is in that picture? Is Erdogan
You
in
have
there?
Mustafa Erdogan,
Mustafa Khomeini. Erdogan, yeah, of course.
the new leader of Hezbollah.
Sheikh Al Thani of Qatar.
No,
Oh, surprise.
Donnie.
Mamdani?
Yes,
Guts mayor of New York City? What are they
Mamdani.
afraid he's going to? Don't let that motherfucker into Israel because he'll be fixing potholes in Jerusalem, which does have a pothole problem. In no time. And the next thing you know, he'll be winning the vote in the Knesset. That's Mamdani?
Mamdani.
Okay. Whatever, y'all. Whatever. Okay, you've gone way the hell over the top when you start. Mamdani, yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
That
Well, the other interesting personality in there is Erdogan.
Oh, yeah. Well, they now view Erdogan as an existential threat because now, in their mind, and this is really funny because when I stayed in Jerusalem, I made a conscious choice to stay in the Jewish quarter at a very specific residence, a very specific hotel called Sephardic House. And the Sephardic House, it's where T.E. Lawrence, Gertrude Bell, General Allenby, all of the biggest players in dividing up the Middle East all stayed there, right? And when you come in through to the rooms, there's pictures of all those people in that building at that spot you're standing in, and you're like, "Whoa, this is where the Middle East got completely fucked up." But the Israelis, by the way, it's in the Jewish quarter because it was always part of the Jewish community. The Israelis view Turkey as the rise of the Ottoman Empire again, right? It's like, wait, what? If anyone is more influence of the rise of the Ottoman Empire, it's a strong argument between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. And the Israelis are down on Qatar. Trust me, they hate Qatar.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Commentary?
Yeah, it's nuts. You need to find ghosts before this election. It seems, and next thing will be they're on their way to nukes and crazy shit. It's completely crazy.
Israel always has to blame it on and create an enemy.
Yeah,
They have
but
they have to
guys,
blame it on an enemy, whether the enemy is real or not. There is an enemy.
And the problem is, of course, the Iranian regime is a legitimate enemy of Israel, and we've been fighting against those since I entered the service here in Denmark, and that was completely natural. But what's going on now is just crazy.
It's crazy.
It's terrible for Israel itself, basically.
Really quick, let me give a shout out to Native Newporter, who says, "Greetings from Newport, Rhode Island. It's nice not to be up at 5 to catch you for once. It must be on the West Coast or something." But I grew up, I lived in Newport, Rhode Island. My dad was assigned to Naval Station Newport, Rhode Island at one point. And to give you an idea of what year this was, see if you can guess what year this was. There is a school there named the John F. Kennedy Elementary School, and it just opened. It's just down the street from the naval base. And we were in like this housing, brand new public, small housing. And it's just down the road from the naval base. And I was not old enough to go even to kindergarten. And my memory is of my brothers and sisters leaving the house, walking across the field, and going to the brand new opening John F. Kennedy Elementary School. So what year did Kennedy get shot at? 61, right? 61, 62? 62? But I lived in Newport, Rhode Island. Somebody says, no, Kennedy didn't get shot in 64, did he? No, he got shot in 63. Yeah, 63. So I was born in 61. That tells you how old I was. And what year do you start kindergarten? 4? So I think I was 3 years old, 2 or 3 years old, when I lived in Newport, Rhode Island. And I remember it. Yes, Jacob.
Yeah, just another thing that about this whole situation in Syria, which is crazy. Benjamin Netanyahu and that government. I have not heard them complain one second, or done anything about Russian bases in Syria.
When they were there. When they were there?
Yeah, exactly. And they still, they're still not out of the Latakia Navy base.
That's right.
And Russia is supporting Iran big time and cooperating with Iran big time. And the new Syrian government is actually, trying to push out Iranian influence, trying to push out Russian influence of Syria, and then they go crazy about Erdogan.
Isn't there a large Russian influence in Israel regardless?
Yes, we talked about that, right? But remember how I told you? I remember the very month Israel changed its basic nature, because I was dating. I was dating someone in Israel, in Haifa, and Haifa was like going to a beautiful garden village in a high-end place.
It's up north in Israel.
And I was just like, oh, this is fun. And then I went home. Then I came back a month later, and there were hookers on the street turning tricks in downtown Haifa. And I was like, now I'm a sailor, so I'm sensitive and attuned to that. And I was like, whoa, what's this? We got hookers. And she goes, the Russians arrived. And I'm like, what? She goes, they just brought in thousands of Russians are allowed to emigrate to Israel. And these were like the first emigres were people who had any Jewish blood, any Jewish tie in your family history. The Russians were allowing them. I guess this was 1989 and 89, 90. And I was like, I've been to Israel between 1983 and that time, and I have never seen nothing outside of ice cream stands and flowers and cupcakes and soldiers with rifles. I had never seen, wild ass drink. Even when I was drinking there, wild ass drunken bars and hookers on the street. Also, my next port visit in Ashdod, they had a hand grenade attack on one of the nightclubs, and they were like, terrorist attack, everybody back to the ship. And the police were like, no, it's mafia. Russian mafia trying to put that nightclub out of business because they had too many Americans spending money there. And they threw hand grenades into it when the Americans weren't there to make it look like it was a terrorist attack. Russians into Israel have changed a lot, and they brought in the ones who stayed in Israel, who didn't emigrate immediately to the United States, because it was really a lily pad just to get to America. The ones who stayed in Israel are really extremist conservatives.
But it is really crazy because, you see that way that Russia and the Putin regime supports Iran big time and, cooperates big time with Iran. This is to get the Russian vote in Israel, which is crazy. It's really nuts.
You see, after I've been looking at the Middle East for all my life, these cross lines no longer confuse me, because this is the middle. This is all the Middle East is. This person that's allied with this person is allied with this person. This person is enemy with this person, and that, this is all the Middle East is. So when I see that, to me, this is not much of a problem. But I can see how that's very frustrating for any person from Europe or from the West to be like, how is that? Russia is so close to Israel. Israel is so close to the United States. But hold on. But Russia is so close to Iran.
But Russia helped Hamas train its fighters for October 7th, and the funny thing is that this is a good example of why Israel has never helped Ukraine, ever. And there are, I don't know if you guys know about Orthodox Judaism, there is two shrines in Ukraine that the founders of two Orthodox branches have their shrines there that are buried in these cemeteries, and tens of thousands of Orthodox Jews around the world all come to Ukraine every year, once a year, to celebrate the founding of these lines of Orthodox Judaism. And of course, the Nazis wiped out hundreds of thousands of Jews, right, in Kyiv and other parts of the country. And there's still tens of them. We had a Jewish International Legion company. It had over
Zelensky
40
is a Jew.
guys. Oh, yeah, Zelensky's Jewish. And and what is the official policy of Israel been since the start of this war? Don't get involved with Ukraine. Don't help Ukraine. That's their whole attitude. The only reason Israel sold Patriot interceptors, PAC-1, the original ones, Babi Yar, the original interceptors to Israel was because they were Joe Biden had guaranteed Israel would get THAAD and more PAC-3 interceptors, and they gave maybe 50 Patriots that were out of commission, gave them to Israel, gave them to Ukraine. The United States bought them and sent them over there. Otherwise, Israel has not helped Ukraine at all. And it's weird. And it shows that in my book, The Plot to Destroy Democracy, New York Times #6 bestseller, I wrote that.
I've got it.
I've got your book. I wrote that what we are seeing is the rise of the axis of autocrats, where they don't care about religion, they don't care about politics. It's about hardcore, extremist, authoritarian, autocrat leaders and money. And Netanyahu, Erdogan, Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, who was that idiot that was down in Bolsonaro in Brazil? Now we got Milei in Argentina. They are all just fucking autocrats, dictators. And the philosophy was that the United States, and it came true, my entire book came true, Russia would have reign on the Eastern Hemisphere, the United States would take the Western Hemisphere, and China would be allowed to dominate Asia in a tripolar world. And this was the philosophy of two people, Alexander Dugin, Putin's philosopher, and his student, Steve Bannon, Trump's philosopher. And it's happening before our very eyes, except Trump is sort of fucking them because Trump got it into his head that he would seize all the oil around the world. And that's what this war in Iran is about, was this fantasy that he would be, I don't know who talked to him and said, if you control all the oil flows around the world, you're going to be fucking God. Now, this leads me, I know we talked a lot about this, but this leads me to an interesting component, which is our actual first point of the day. The Middle East, because of Trump, because of the axis of autocrats, because of the war in Iran, is completely realigning away from the way the United States had aligned it since the 1930s, right? By the way, Aramco, which you guys, I don't know if you guys know what the original name of Aramco is. It was the Arab American Oil Company. Okay, as opposed to, I think it's now officially the Arabian Oil Company. But Aramco, was a U.S.-backed concern that invested in oil drilling in Saudi Arabia in the 1930s, and then during World War II. Of course, Iran at that time was a British protectorate and was the biggest source of oil going to World War II outside of, Romania and places like that. But this is the origins of all of this. But my point being this, the Middle East was supposedly realigning itself on the basis of the Abraham Accords. Wajeeh, can you define for everybody what the Abraham Accords was?
Starting from the first Trump administration, Trump appointed Jared Kushner to create the Abrahamic Accord, to create tremendous pressure on Arab nations to recognize the state of Israel and create economic and military alliances with the state of Israel. UAE agreed to that with open arms and head over heel. You had Sudan that agreed to it within the last few years. And before that, you had Bahrain that agreed to it. And those are the few states that come to mind.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia has had a lot tremendous. Go ahead. You had.
The initial proposal was this: showing faith between the three Abrahamic religions, right?
That's right.
Everyone would suddenly recognize, would be brought in by this, young Jewish kid whose father is a convicted criminal who went to jail for 7 years, who was suddenly handed $2 billion, that all of the Arab states would stop their policies supporting the Palestinians and supporting revolutionary change against Israel, and would all recognize Israel as a legitimate nation and would open full diplomatic relations with Israel. That is what the Abraham Accords are supposed to do. The three countries that signed immediately were Mohammed bin Zayed in Abu Dhabi, right? The United Arab Emirates, the King of Morocco,
Bahrain.
right?
Yep.
And Bahrain.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the
The King of Morocco signed in the first, amongst the first lot, because the trade-off was that Donald Trump
recognized the second lot.
Morocco control of Western Sahara.
Yeah, the West Sahara. Yeah, that was in 2021. So it was a payoff. And they had been trying to get the United States to have this payoff. But what it was, and you heard the Trump administration say it was, Trump reinvented the Middle East. Now all the Arab states would recognize Israel and the legitimacy of Israel, and which many Arabs, I spoke to them all the time. I went to Diwans all the time. They had no problem with Israel. They had a problem with Netanyahu. Okay, they had a problem with the extremists, and they liked the idea of the two-state solution. When Netanyahu said after October 7th, the two-state solution is done, there will never be a Palestinian state, they will get rid of all of them. Well, the Abraham Accords essentially died. And now Trump is trying to, don't forget, he created his fake-ass Board of Peace to give him a vehicle to bring in all these Arab states to join the Abraham Accords. And it has all been full court press. Join the Abraham Accords or we won't support you. So now Netanyahu went nuts. And I'm going to tell you where he went nuts the most nutty. How are we going into 2026, 3 years at war with Gaza? I thought that war would be done in 90 days. If they had mobilized the 500,000 Israeli soldiers they were starting to mobilize and had gone into Gaza, occupied it, cleansed out the combatants, got the tunnels, fed the people, that war would have been over in 2024.
They don't want to cleanse the combatants. Keep saying they want to cleanse all of Gaza.
It's pretty clear Netanyahu has no interest in ending that war.
No.
I mean, he doesn't even send the right amount of soldiers there. It's to run a perimeter. I mean, he's, I'm going to go in one here, one there. Yeah, he would have lost 300 or 400 troops, but you just lost 1,700 civilians and over 500 soldiers on October 7th. So I wouldn't say we couldn't take the casualties. So that being said, at that point, nobody's joining the Abraham Accords. And Trump has been hammering Saudi Arabia to be the one country to break the stranglehold, give money out to everybody, join the Abraham Accords. And as we've said on this show many times, the minute you join the Abraham Accords is the minute someone is going to suicide bomb your ass out of existence.
MBS
Go ahead,
said
Jacob.
To Western media.
Yeah,
Jacob.
What did he say?
Oh,
I'm sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, just finish, Wajeeh. Are you done?
MBS was asked literally about that question several times by Western media, and he told them, I will not agree to this until Israel recognizes the state of Palestine, because if I agree to it, I will be assassinated. Period.
Yeah. Derek M., one of our sharp-eyed guests, just said, may as well call it the Assassination Accords.
Yeah.
Right? You're a dead man walking.
All this fantasy land that this could go on regardless of the Palestinian issue and with an Israeli government that is trying to establish greater Israel and really letting the letting the West Bank go. You have the Gaza issue for one thing, but then also with all the settlement, the problems, settler problems in the West Bank, and really undermining that can ever be a Palestinian state. This is dead. That is the reality, and everyone that doesn't see that is in fantasy land.
So this, wait, somebody said what? Oh, okay. The talking point we're going to discuss now, we'll keep it relatively short, is that technically Saudi Arabia did something very sneaky here recently by having the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement, which was the agreement signed about 3 weeks ago with Turkey, Pakistan for a start, that is now bringing in Egypt, Syria, and maybe the Gulf states, including Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, right? And essentially by creating, under the table and without the help of the United States, a joint defense agreement that states if Saudi Arabia is attacked, the land of the two holy shrines, right? Mecca and Medina, right? The great Kaaba in Mecca and the shrine of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in Medina. That's the second shrine, right, Wajeeh?
The second holiest mosque. My great grandpa founded the library there.
Wallahi. Wow. Very honorable. Muy sharaf. Look at me speaking Spanish and Arabic all at the same time. So those are the two holy shrines. The Saud family, from the time that T.E. Lawrence handed them that country and helped them win the War of the Hijaz and gave them British firepower behind them. That has been the mandate of the Al Saud family. Protect the two holy shrines. But protecting the two holy shrines also means protecting the legitimacy of Islam. And you can't do that at the same time that many of your more extremist, imams are out there talking about, Wahhabism, which is the most extremist form of Islam that's happened since the first century, the first 100 years after the Prophet Muhammad, which started, by the way, Wahhabi Islam is from the late 1890s. It is a modern invention in Islam to essentially say, we are the greatest and the best, and Jews must die. It has popped up from time to time in history. But with the Mecca Agreement or the Mecca Accords, Saudi Arabia has essentially created an Arab states alternative to the Abraham Accords. No need to join the Abraham Accords. The Abraham
Arab
Accords,
and
by
Turkish.
opening these... Right. But by opening the Abraham Accords, joining the Abraham Accords, you were to gain security guaranteed by the United States and guarantee that Israel would not be fighting against you. Right? Well,
Someone
this
is
is
asking,
interesting.
is Wahhabism MAGA for, is Wahhabism MAGA? No, Wahhabism is the equivalent of the Westboro Baptist Church in Topeka.
Yeah. MEGA, keep Islam great again. Make Islam great again. It's more like the Westboro Baptist Church. It was the extreme of this extreme. And many of these people, this is where many of the cults that cropped up in Islam were like Wahhabism, the Khawarij, the Karamita. It showed that you had to be more Muslim than any Muslim that existed before you, and that anyone that was not with you was not a Muslim and an enemy of Islam. It's very extremist. And the Saudis in the 1970s and 80s, when they had beaucoup d'argent, right? Crazy money, were spending it all over the world to build Wahhabist mosques, including in the United States. My sister, who is a Muslimah, peace be upon her because she's passed, was from a Wahhabist school of thought because they built these beautiful mosques in the middle of, nowhere cities in the United States and got the black community to join their version of Islam, not Nation of Islam, the true Islam. In fact, the reason Malcolm X was assassinated is because he went on Hajj to Saudi Arabia and found that he was actually not practicing true Islam. And when he got back to New York City, they didn't like, the Muslim, what do they call them? The
Muslim
Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam did not like that and killed him. So, all of this being said, what is happening is the Middle East is realigning. Just not the way Trump and Jared Kushner thought. They've created essentially their own NATO is forming. And it is, I said the joke, Gulf Islamic States Treaty Organization, GITA. No, it's the Islamic States Treaty Organization. The Mecca Accords have now gotten rid of. Now there's no reason for anybody to join the Abraham Accords because they're essentially saying, we can't trust Israel not to attack us, so we'll guarantee that ourselves by having a mutual defense pact with Pakistan that's got nukes.
And if we just go back 2-3 years, these same countries would say Israel is not the biggest problem in the Middle East, it's Iran.
Yeah.
Well,
and the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Turkey, they often blame Turkey to be part of the Muslim Brotherhood. That would be the threat perception. That would be the threat perception, and that was why their security cooperation with Israel during all these years has been very, very
Well, yeah,
good. If you look at even Saudi Arabia has cooperated with Israel.
they still cooperate with Israel.
Yeah, but I guess it's more shadowy now.
Well,
Somebody, Derek M. just came up, or another person came up with the title here that technically this is Josh said, the Mecca Accords Treaty Organization, METO. Right? I wouldn't be surprised. They watch this show carefully. I wouldn't be surprised if they were using that starting next week.
Everyone should remember that NATO is not a treaty organization for autocrats. It is a treaty organization for liberal democracies, and that was NATO's strength. The Mecca Accords is an accord between autocrats, and they'll always end up fighting internally. And that is why this is, they've signed a piece of paper and thumped their chest a little bit, but the impact will be limited.
You made a big important point. But to put extra context to this, why Gulf states were so afraid of Turkey and Muslim Brotherhood and Iran? Because now they would rather finish up all of this and deal with Israel, because Israel is causing more threat to the region than Iran.
Yeah.
Because Iran had so many proxies, number one. Number two, because of the Arab Spring that happened in 2011, where Muslim Brotherhood started becoming more of a political organization that wanted to have some sort of theocracy with democracy, found it way nicer to most of these Muslim Arabs than the current autocratic regimes. It would sound way nicer to have something similar to Turkey. So all of them were danger for all of these autocratic regimes. So that was danger number one. Now the economy is struggling because Israel started a war with the rest of these countries that no one can put to end. So who's now the big problem? It is Israel for them. Perception changes as real action changes.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Ken Merdiogu, who is in Istanbul, who we're all having coffee one of these days, said, interestingly, here's a comment he made. Interestingly, when the Arab revolt started against the crumbling Ottoman rule in 1916, the leadership of the revolt, Sharif of Mecca, right, implemented and practiced a Wahhabist version of Islam. It was one of the reasons he rebelled against Ottoman rule, which was getting more and more secular. And it was secular because don't forget what happened right after World War I, right? Ataturk came in and made what was left over of the Ottoman Empire 100% secular until Erdogan. And Erdogan just eliminated Ataturk in like a matter of an hour after that. What's even more interesting is when I lived in Washington, D.C., I rented a house from a guy who was the leader of the Ataturk Society of Washington, D.C. And this guy had freaking pull and influence there. And he was lamenting when Erdogan came into power that, hey, this guy doesn't seem to be embracing the philosophy of Ataturk. So Can's point here is that the Saudis, who now are the center of Islam, they're the ones who got rid of secularization or, the milder form of Islam in the Muslim world. They did it. And if Turkey is becoming a more radical country 110 years after the end of World War I, thank you, Saudi Arabia. Listen, we got to keep moving on. By the way, so the fundamental gist of all of this is the Mecca Middle East Mecca Agreement Treaty Organization has now become the Anti-Abraham Accords agreement. You don't have to sign the Abraham Accords now, Guy. You can join us. The Muslims are all teaming up together. This has realigned the Middle East without the United States and Israel, and it now sidelines Israel completely. It'll be interesting. As you guys might know, I'm up in Canada for the next hour or so. I'll be leaving Canada shortly to go home. And my teeth, they're so clean. One of the things that's happened, I'm glad I got my teeth clean yesterday, because for those of you who don't know it, the United States and Canada had been working on a trade deal to lift the previous tariffs against Canada on several major fronts, including lumber. Virtually all the lumber in the United States, good quality lumber, comes from Canada. Steel, aluminum, other things, that the Canadians were producing in the United States would be allowed to sell alcohol back in Canada. So this deal was being ratified this week by the Canadian Trade Minister. Well, the Canadian Trade Minister goes into Washington yesterday to sign the deal, okay? And this is a good example of how Trump does his deals. And he is trying to do it on an international scale, and it explains why the world is completely fucked up. There are tariffs taxing American citizens everywhere. See, the Canadian Trade Minister goes in to sign the deal that was agreed upon after weeks and weeks and weeks of negotiation. And he finds out the United States puts down in front of him not the document they agreed to. He puts down in front of him a whole slew of other things Canada never even fucking discussed and said, now tell me if this doesn't sound familiar, sign this. Right? And the Canadian Chamber is like, fuck no, whoa, this isn't what we agreed to. I'm not signing shit, right? And he goes, we didn't agree to this. A whole series of things were inserted into the agreement that would screw Canada. Now, where have we seen this before? Well, I recall that, who was it that he had a meeting with, that he asked them to sign an agreement, and the agreement was completely changed. We've seen that in meetings that he would have. They would come in there to talk about one thing, and it was something else. A mobster mentality. Real quick, Wajeeh, I'm going to sign it.
You find the deal with the Saudis about the nuclear. Days later, he's like, oh, I forgot to add. You have to
join the Abraham Accords, right? Yeah, that was one. We're going to give you the capability to have nuclear weapons, but you have to recognize Israel and join the Abraham Accords at the last minute. Here you go.
And the NATO summit, Ukraine can produce pack interceptors and all that bullshit, and
that was
Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff will visit Kyiv.
It was Zelensky, and the deal that was supposed to be the Ukrainians were allowed to buy interceptors using European Union money. And in the deal was, you will give the United States 50% of all your rare earth minerals. Right? Well, it's Canada's turn in the barrel. And that's what happened to them yesterday. And here is what happened when the Trade Minister of Canada walked out the fucking room and said, oh, elbows up, bitches. The United States was already prepared for them to do this. And instantly after he walked out, they announced 50% tariffs on everything Canadian. So I'm going to the IGA this morning. I'm going to buy a shitload of Canadian syrup because it's going to be really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be really expensive. This is how Trump does deals. This was America's single closest ally and biggest trading partner. And here's another funny part. All cars that are produced by U.S. auto producers that are made with Mexican components and then are shipped up to Canada to have like the drivetrain and stuff put in and then are shipped back to the United States, 50% higher as of today, right? This is insane. Somebody is saying Vermont syrup is wonderful. Bitches, Vermont and New York maple syrup is just Canadian maple syrup with a border. It's the same trees, right? So this is how Trump does business. And this is what the Iranians are saying about that. You can't trust America. They will lie and they will change the deal at the last minute and expect you to sign it. So Iran is stating they are now going to essentially ignore economic warfare D-Day because this is how fucking United States does deals. They can't be trusted. And guess what? They're right. We just proved it with Canada.
And when dictators and military juntas like the Iranian junta are actually right about something, it tells you how deep you have fallen.
Oh, it's funny. When the United States starts issuing all of these threats, and other countries that are already making deals with Iran go, yeah, we ain't listening to you anymore. Our bottom line comes first. At some point, after you use your weapons, antibiotics, when you use it for no reason, it stops having an effect. But that's exactly what the U.S. has done.
Well, welcome to, 100% higher maple syrup day, 50% higher maple syrup day. But this is why Iran is laughing at us. And they said clearly, we're not cutting any deals with the United States. This is how they fuck us. So they can't be trusted. By the way, Iran had a very interesting comment yesterday made by Galibaf. Galibaf's role is the
Speaker of the House.
Speaker of
Parliament. He said, you have put 47 years of sanctions on us. What more can you do to us? Right? And nobody is cutting off any trade with them. The only country that has is Dubai. And guess what the number one import they had from Dubai was? This is very interesting. Anybody? What do you think the number one thing they were getting? Gold. Gold from the gold souk of Dubai. That is the number one import that Iran was getting there. They were trading in gold. And, that is not going to stop them making bread. They've been under sanctions for 47 years. Economic D-Day is over before it even started. It's more like economic Dieppe, right? Or the economic, San Nazaire raid. I mean, it's just a disaster that is not going to have the effects that you really desire. And one last point before we go today, Fox News is pushing this line that the United States is so damaging Iran that the Iranian people may rise up in rebellion just before the midterms to give Trump a win.
Scott Besson's brilliant analysis.
That actually can. They're sitting there talking about it. Iran's going to have a rebellion and they're going to rise up and wipe out the government and everything's going to be fucking great. The quote from that is, no one is factoring just a win in Iran. Somebody factor that in. Here, let me factor that. Well, God, we're in so much trouble. Finally, the Houthis are carrying out attacks in Yemen. And Iran is stating that they believe Qatar has 3 pilots alive and that they are just being fed bread and water and that they want the International Committee of the Red Crescent to check up on them. Qatar had better salvage those aircraft and bring those bodies up quickly because Iran is now making hay on this and it's on Iranian national TV. So that is all the news that we have today. I know we've gone long. Guys, any last comments?
Not on this, Malcolm, but I won't be in the next many days. Why? Because tomorrow I have an event, but all next week I'm at the commanding general of the Danish Armed Forces, his annual call. And there's a really, packed schedule.
His annual what?
So, a course. So I'll be going out on frigates, and I won't be flying F-35s, but I'll be doing all crazy stuff.
You're going as a journalist analyst, or is just like friends of Denmark?
I've been invited to participate.
Whatever they call these guys. You gotta say, yo, Malcolm Nance wants to go out there and do cool ass shit.
And you know what?
Right?
It's twice a week. It's 1 week twice. What is 2 legs? And on the second leg, I'm going to Greenland, and not only Nuuk, but I will also be going over here on the East Coast. And what do we have here,
the Sirius
Malcolm?
Patrol?
Yeah.
The Sirius Patrol? Fuck you, Jacob Carspo. We have been trying to get out there forever. And you're like, oh, just FYI, the commander of the armed forces of the Greenland, of Denmark said, hey, let's go out to Sirius Patrol and hang out with the sled dogs. Okay, I see how you are. You are a one-way bitch. Your ass to Greenland. I made you famous in Denmark for this. And what do I get out of that? I get to stay here. I get to cut my grass. I see how it is. All right, well, have safe travels. We'll replace you with Dexter Ingram.
But
let us know what day you're doing
me,
it.
because if I can jump on for a few minutes, I will. But it's just the schedule is really packed. I think I finish at this time on Friday afternoon. And if I'm out and I can log on, I will on Friday.
Okay. Somebody says Malcolm is jealous of you. Yeah. Yeah, I really am.
This is it.
Cool ass shit that I want to do. Anyway, I'm telling you, we got to start a consulting company there so that you could say, my partner, who is very big on Danish defense. You should invite him
but then
too.
you have to learn Danish as well, because it's all in Danish.
Yeah, that's easy. It's dirty German. So
don't say that.
Same thing I say about Dutch, right? All right, guys. Well, thank you for coming to this episode of Black Man Spy. I know we've gone a little bit over. We've answered a lot of questions, so I won't do the questions today. I will be bringing up stuff on the Substack chat, so you can check back in there during the day. And I am, and we will talk about this tomorrow. I am leaving now to go back to my luxurious home in upstate New York, where I can cut the grass and pick open 20 Amazon packages that are sitting on my front porch, I'm sure. If you're watching this on YouTube, you have missed it. Subscribe to us on YouTube at the Malcolm Nance Media on YouTube, and come over to Substack and watch it live. malcolmnance.substack.com. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Wajeeh. Have fun. We will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.